So the economy missed a technical recession in the last 3 months of last year after squeezing out a growth of 0.1%. Later today, Statistics South Africa will give figures for the first 3 months of this year. Business reporter Ntokozo Khumalo is following that story for us, and she'll be starting off her day in Sandton. And Ntokozo, very good morning to you. Thank you so much for making time for us. So the economy dodging that technical recession bullet last year, but only hardly. How is the economy expected to perform this year amid all of this political noise?
Good morning, Aldrin. Well, I'm actually out in Melrose, S&P Global Ratings holding its South Africa conference. And if this year's theme is anything to go by, a rock and a hard place, it should tell you the sentiments that investors are having around the trajectory of the economy. As you rightfully said, just missing a technical recession last year and a whole lot of headwinds that have been in the path of growth. S&P Global did keep South Africa's rating steady. It was due to actually have a rating announcement about 2 weeks before the elections, but it didn't have an announcement, meaning that the rating was kept at stable. So that last decision being made in November, and already the ratings agency, Aldrin, had penciled in the likelihood of the ANC losing its majority when South Africans take to the poll in the May 29th election, and also, putting out those scenarios of that coalition government, which is, of course, the hot topic of the week. But what S&P Global said there is that it didn't expect any real policy changes, regardless of the possibility of a coalition. So really expecting monetary and fiscal policy to remain as it is until that coalition government is formed, and even for some time yet, just to ensure that investors are settled. So from the ratings point of view, when you look at Moody's services, having a slightly different stance to S&P when it comes to how policy and the coalition government might affect the economy, they highlighting that a coalition government might actually take away all the progress that has been made in the last 18 months or so with those reforms in the energy sector and reforms in logistics as well. So just warning that coalition government, depending which direction we take, might actually reverse all that work that has been done. So we are going to hear a little bit that conversation going to start here of those international directors at S&P Global Ratings, but also from the banking and mining industry, as we know, important sectors when it comes to being able to attract investment into the country, which is important, of course, Aldrin, to get those projects rolling and stimulate the economy and create jobs. Unfortunately, our cameras can't go in to the sessions, but I will be listening in to what is coming out of S&P Global, and we will hear from Standard Bank CEO Sim Shabalala as well this morning, and then we'll give that update a little bit later on once we are at Statistics South Africa that will give then that data for the GDP growth for the first quarter of the year, and that will give us an indication, Aldrin, on whether we will reach that 1% growth by the end of the year, which is still, a small growth when considering, depending who you are, South Africa needing between 3 and 6% annual growth to sustainably grow the economy and make a real dent in the country's unemployment rate. So I'll be giving those details a little bit later on, Aldrin.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see what those numbers look like, considering that when you look at the quarterly labor force survey for the first quarter of 2024, our unemployment rate went up to 32.9%. And that is Ntokozo Khumalo there joining us. And a bit later on, of course, the Statistician General of the country will be releasing those GDP figures.